Why Success Feels Empty. Hi again, this is Greg Swanson with the Warrior Mind podcast. Last episode, we talked about loss of motivation in general. And here we're going to be talking about a lack of motivation in life, right? Why discipline eventually stops working. So many ambitious men, pride themselves on discipline. I love the fact that I'm disciplined in a lot of areas of my life, and some not so much either. But men really pride themselves on this discipline, and they wake up early, they train hard, they work long hours, maintain the routines that once helped them rise above the average path. For years, discipline becomes the engine that drives growth and achievement. And I know myself, I wake up early, get to the gym, grind it out, come back, do stuff, and the discipline is there, and it does produce results. And if we can develop that discipline, it's really a great thing. It brings us head and shoulders above others. But eventually, something does change. Really, that discipline doesn't activate us as much as it used to, and there's some other things that are going on. So lack of motivation in life, why discipline eventually stops working. And it can stop working for a week, a month, a year, but eventually that discipline stops working unless we do something about it, right? Successful men often experience this, whether it's work or in fitness or anywhere else, sometimes sports athletes, right? Discipline remains strong, motivation begins to fade. And, we can play semantics with this discipline is internal, inspiration is internal, motivation is external. But whatever that is when the discipline is there, but we're just not that excited about doing that task. I'll wake up in the morning sometimes and I'll still go to the gym because I'm disciplined. This is what I do. This is part of my identity. I wake up early, work out. But the motivation, I go there and maybe the workout isn't as good as it should be. And something's off. And this can happen a lot with a lot of guys. So the question is why does this happen? What's going on here? What's happening internally that we have this discipline, but we don't have the ignition to get going? So many disciplined men eventually experience a lack of motivation in life, even while remaining successful. You would think, man, I'm successful, I'm disciplined, I should have motivation. Well, the moment motivation changes when discipline stops producing energy, right? We have this energy, motivation, inspiration, and that energy, we take it and do something with it, lift weights, to be creative, go on a sales call. But when that discipline stops being the ignition for the fire of energy, then there's something amiss, right? Strong routines remain, like myself, work ethic is still intact, results still appear, but energy begins to fade. And once that energy begins to fade, it's not so long that that's the first domino, that results will start to disappear. The work ethic may be faltering, the strong routines. But in the beginning, right? So notice, you got this routine, you're doing well, but you're just not feeling it. And that's expressions I have, and my clients also say, is I'm just not feeling it. Well, this is the moment where high performers realize that something internally has changed. And there's whether it's a self concept or whether it's self talk, whatever it is, something has changed internally, not externally. We can't say like, oh, I got to go to a different gym. I got to go see different clients. No, that's putting the blame externally, but it's internally that has changed. So what lack of motivation in life actually feels like? Work becomes mechanical. We're there. It's just like we're on an assembly line. We come here, we do this and do that. Progress feels routine. Well, we're supposed to make progress, and this is what we do. I come in, I do the mechanical part, I make progress. The energy feels different. It feels maybe not as robust. It feels not as invigorating, if you will. And nothing appears wrong. This experience is confusing for some disciplined people. And it was for me when I first started experiencing it. When I'm disciplined, I got this, I'm going there. What's happening? Why is my mojo slacking a little bit. And so the discipline paradox, right, is this is why discipline eventually stops working. Discipline drives early success, which is great. We want to get that success. We want to build the discipline. It's better to be disciplined than not, and we better have success than not. So this is not saying don't be disciplined to get success. It's just this is the formula that often happens. And then structure creates momentum. So discipline creates the success, the structure that we use in that discipline creates momentum, and effort becomes identity. I am the type of person who does this. I am a motivated person. I am this. And so it becomes part of our identity, and we feel unconsciously we have to live up to that every day. But discipline does have its limits, right? And so here's the mountaineering lesson. You early climb you equal excitement, right? So we for myself on Rainier, we would get up early, we'd start climbing, we got this excitement, it was wonderful. And then the higher altitude, the higher we got, the slower the progress, whether that was on Mount Rainier, Mount Shasta, or Zaba, Whitney, any of those. When you get up to a higher level, it doesn't have to be that big, but this is just an example, right? Early climb, you're excited, you're at the bottom. Oh, we're going to do it. We're going to get great. You get a little bit higher altitude. The progress starts to slow. I'm like, oh my gosh, are we ever going to get to the top? And then every step requires effort. And it really does. When you get up there over 10,000 feet, it does require effort. And motivation must become deeper discipline, purpose, right? So we want to start looking at now shifting from discipline, what we are, to why we are, and that would be that purpose, right? So why high performers lose motivation, right? Achievement becomes routine. We go out there, we expect to get achievement, whatever that looks like. Another sale, another 2 pounds in weights, another whatever it might be. Achievement becomes routine. Identity is tied to discipline. I am the type of person who's disciplined. I am, right? When we start saying that, that's part of our identity, and it becomes a crucial part. Now, it's not saying that this is wrong. It's just saying that this is the formula. When it becomes so ingrained as part of our identity, then some things can shift, right? Success continues. Meaning begins to fade. Why am I doing? What's the meaning? What is all this for? Why am I climbing this mountain? Why am I lifting this weight? Why am I making this sale? Well, to pay bills, but the meaning starts to fade. So high performers slowly disconnect effort from meaning. It's just I go through the grind, point A to point B to point C to point D, and there's no meaning behind it. There's no purpose behind it. And this is what happens when we get so disciplined that we focus on I am a disciplined person as opposed to I am on a purpose, and part of the discipline supports my purpose, right? So then we get this discipline fatigue. Effort continues, purpose fades, work becomes repetitive, internal spark starts to weaken. Here's the concept of discipline fatigue, right? The effort's there. Our purpose fades. Like, why am I doing this? I don't know. I just got to do it because that's what I've done. That's who I am. And work becomes repetitive, whether it's at work, whether it's doing the same thing at home, whether it's doing the same thing at gym. It just becomes repetitive. Same day, different day, same stuff, right? And that internal spark begins to flicker out. So, this is where the hidden cost of overachievement comes in. High performers override these signals. They push harder. They go, oh, I just need to be driven. I just got to go faster. I got to put more hours in. I got to make more calls. I got to lift more weight. I got to add more. I got to do more. And then increase discipline. I got to, instead of 3 o'clock, I got to get up at 2:30 to get that extra rep in. I got to make that extra phone call before I go home. So this becomes the mantra then, is right, but meaning keeps fading. We don't know why we're doing what we're doing because we have identified ourselves with I am a disciplined person. Again, which is not bad, but when it becomes the overriding factor in our achievement, then some things begin to falter, right? But doubling discipline does not solve motivation loss. Discipline is is what we do, and the motivation is how we do it, in a sense. So the three stages of motivation collapse, right? Stage one, discipline surge. Man, we are there. We wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. We go to the gym, or we get to work on time. We make our 10 sales calls, whatever that is. Stage two, the plateau of effort. We put in the effort, but then we start to stop putting in that same effort. We start to plateau because it's after a while, it's like at your higher altitude, progress starts to slow. And then stage three is there's a meaning gap. Then we look at, why am I doing this? What's the purpose of all this? And this is what happens when, this is the start of that motivation collapse. So the meaning gap, right? The effort disconnects from purpose, success remains, motivation weakens, right? We have this effort, we keep doing what we're doing, but we've lost track of the purpose behind why we are doing it. We're just doing it because we are that type of a person, right? The identity. The identity is starting to drive the behavior as opposed to internal where the purpose is. So the success remains, right? But motivation weakens and direction becomes unclear. And it could be, why am I doing this? I need to find my purpose in life. This job sucks. I got to go find something else. I got to go to a different gym. So the direction becomes unclear. We start looking for externally for ways to satisfy this. This is a significant psychological turning point in this motivation and the meaning gap. So then there's this evolution of motivation that goes along with it, right? Early motivation equals pressure. Man, I got to do it. I got to do it. The pressure builds up. Later motivation equals alignment. I'm aligned with what I'm doing. I know what I am doing. And this alignment is your purpose. It's your contribution. It's your meaningful challenge. Motivation evolves rather than disappears. So early motivation is this pressure to keep it up, but the later is alignment. It's the action isn't aligned with our purpose, with what we want to contribute, with our meaningful challenge. And this is where the motivation evolves to. So if you've ever experienced a lack of motivation in life, right, it may not be failure of discipline. It may be a signal that your current routines are no longer aligned with your deeper direction. So take a look at it. If you're starting to just do things and question it, then start asking, what is the purpose behind this? And it's not, it's something bigger than just to pay bills, right? We want to see what that purpose is. And so, this is where I came in with the Resilient Man framework, right? It's designed to help ambitious men rebuild alignment between physical strength, mental clarity, emotional resilience, and meaningful purpose. When these pillars become reconnected or realigned, motivation becomes a natural byproduct of living in alignment with what truly matters. If you want to find out more information on this podcast, you can visit warriormindcoach.com. While you're over there, you can find other information in the form of podcasts, the Resilient Man blueprint, if you will, or framework, other aspects, and also how to book your power strategy call. Since you'll be on the internet, please follow me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, all under Warrior Mind Coach.